Curaçao, the Caribbean's most colorful secret, a travel guide by PalapaVibez.com.
Most people can name the famous Caribbean islands without thinking twice. But ask them about Curaçao and you get a pause. Maybe a vague memory of a blue liqueur. Maybe a half-remembered conversation with someone who came back raving about it. That pause is the whole opportunity. Because Curaçao is one of the most genuinely extraordinary islands in the entire Caribbean, and it has been sitting there slightly under the radar, waiting for the travelers who do their research instead of following the crowd.
This is your guide to all of it. The colorful capital, the world-class diving, the food, where to stay, and exactly how to get there. Let's get into it. Curaçao is a constituent country of the Kingdom of the Netherlands, sitting about 65 kilometers north of Venezuela in the southern Caribbean.
It is home to roughly 150,000 people who speak Papiamentu, a remarkable Creole language blending Portuguese, Spanish, Dutch, and African languages that developed right here on this island over centuries of trade and cultural collision.
English is widely spoken across the island. The US dollar is accepted almost everywhere alongside the local guilder, and the infrastructure is European standard in the best possible way.
The island sits completely outside the hurricane belt, which means you can book Curaçao any month of the year with complete confidence. The driest and most reliable months run from January through September, but even outside that window brief, showers pass quickly and rarely disrupt a full day. One of the most underappreciated things about Curaçao is how much variety is packed into 444 square kilometers. You can spend the morning in a UNESCO-listed capital that looks like Amsterdam painted in tropical colors, the afternoon snorkeling a pristine reef, and the evening eating some of the most interesting food in the Caribbean. That kind of density of experience is genuinely rare. Willemstad is the beating heart of Curaçao and one of the most visually striking cities anywhere in the Caribbean.
The Handelscade waterfront is the image most people associate with the island. That iconic row of Dutch colonial buildings painted in ochre, terracotta, sky blue, and coral, lining the harbor of St. Anna Bay. These buildings have been standing since the 17th and 18th centuries, and the entire historic district is UNESCO World Heritage listed.
At golden hour, when the light hits those facades and reflects off the water, it looks almost too beautiful to be real. It is not a filter. That is just what Willemstad looks like. The Queen Emma pontoon bridge connects the two halves of the city, Punta on one side and Otrobanda on the other. It is a floating pedestrian bridge that swings open for passing tankers, and watching it do so while standing on the waterfront is one of those small travel moments that sticks with you.
Cross into Otrobanda for street art, live music, and the Cura Hulenda Museum, which documents Curaçao's role in the transatlantic slave trade with honesty and depth that most island museums never attempt. On the north coast, Shete Boka National Park is where Curaçao's raw natural power reveals itself. Atlantic swells funnel into volcanic rock formations and explode skyward through blowholes in a display that feels almost violent in the best possible way. Sea turtles nest on the protected beaches here. The trails are uncrowded and the landscape is unlike anything else on the island. Hato caves take you underground into limestone caverns formed over millions of years, with stalactites, underground pools, and Amerindian petroglyphs dating back 1,500 years carved into the walls.
It is a quiet reminder that this island story started long before the Dutch arrived. Klein, Curaçao, the small uninhabited islet reachable by catamaran from the main island, is the beach experience that most travelers remember longest. Powder white sand, a photogenic abandoned lighthouse standing crumbling and perfect against the blue sky, and snorkeling in water so clear and calm that sea turtles pass within arm's reach. Day trips sell out during peak season. Book before you arrive. And the beaches on the main island deserve their own mention. Curaçao has over 35 beaches ranging from developed strands with beach bars to completely wild crescents, where you might be the only person for hundreds of meters.
Playa Nip consistently ranks among the most beautiful in the entire Caribbean, a turquoise bay framed by cliffs that looks like it belongs in a travel brochure and then exceeds it in person. The food scene on Curaçao is one of the most underrated in the entire Caribbean, and understanding how to navigate it is the difference between eating well and eating extraordinarily.
Start with PalapaVibez, the old market in the Punta district of Willemstad.
Vendors serve heaping plates of goat stew, fried fish, stoba and tutu, mashed black-eyed peas with cornmeal, from steaming pots, all for under $10. The atmosphere is chaotic and completely authentic. This is where locals eat lunch, and the food carries the weight of generations of Curaçaoan cooking. It is mandatory. The dish you must try across the island is quechillena, a whole cheese shell stuffed with spiced meat, olives, and raisins. The same dish exists on neighboring Aruba and Bonaire, but each island has its own version, and Curaçao's is worth seeking out specifically. Ask for it at a local restaurant rather than a resort kitchen for the real version. For elevated dining, Gouverneur de Rouville occupies a restored colonial mansion overlooking the harbor with a candlelit terrace, Dutch Caribbean fusion cuisine, and one of the best wine lists on the island.
Komen, the Pietermaaie district, has built a devoted following for its Asian-inflected small plates and inventive cocktails, in a setting that somehow feels both globally sophisticated and deeply local at the same time.
And before you leave, visit the Chobolobo Distillery, where genuine Curaçao liqueur is produced from the dried peels of the Laraja citrus fruit, a bitter orange that grows only on this island. The tour is fascinating, the tasting is excellent, and the blue version makes for the most photogenic sundowner you will have anywhere in the Caribbean. Curaçao's accommodation has developed significantly in recent years, with options across every style and budget.
Boa's Luxury Resort is the island's most intimate and extraordinary property. Just 23 suites in a Balinese-inspired setting with private beach, butler service, and an overwater deck that creates the feeling of having found a secret paradise nobody else knows about. Renaissance Wind Creek, Curaçao, sits right on the Willemstad waterfront, placing guests within walking distance of Handelscade and the city's best restaurants, with an infinity pool overlooking the harbor that is one of the better views you will find from any hotel pool in the Caribbean.
Sandals Royal Curaçao represents the brand's most ambitious Caribbean property, with overwater bungalows, multiple dining concepts, and a stretch of coastline that delivers exactly what the Sandals brand promises. For wellness-focused travelers, Zoetry Curaçao Resort and Spa is an adults-only sanctuary with holistic treatments, organic cuisine, and yoga pavilions overlooking the sea. If you want to stay closer to Willemstad's nightlife and cultural energy, the Pietermaaie district has become the island's most exciting neighborhood, with boutique hotels in restored historic buildings, rooftop pools, and courtyard bars that stay lively well into the evening.
Curaçao International Airport receives direct flights from major U.S. cities including Miami, New York JFK, Charlotte, and Fort Lauderdale on American Airlines, JetBlue, and United. From Amsterdam, KLM operates daily non-stop flights, a legacy of the Dutch connection that makes Curaçao one of the most directly accessible Caribbean islands for European travelers. Flight time from Miami runs about 2.5 hours. From Amsterdam, it is roughly 9 hours. From the airport, Willemstad is 15 minutes by taxi. Fixed rate fares are posted in the arrivals hall, and ride-hailing apps are not yet established on the island. Renting a car is strongly recommended for anything beyond the capital. Roads are well maintained, you drive on the right, and having your own vehicle is the difference between seeing the real Curaçao and only seeing what is walking distance from your hotel.
A few practical things worth knowing before you go. Tap water is completely safe to drink. Curaçao runs a desalination plant that produces some of the cleanest water in the Caribbean. Use reef-safe sunscreen because the trade winds create a cooling effect that masks how intense the UV actually is, and the coral reefs around this island are worth protecting. U.S. citizens, EU nationals, UK and Canadian passport holders are all visa-free for stays up to 90 days. And learn 2 words of papiamento before you arrive. Bombini means welcome and Mashadanki means thank you.
Using either one earns an immediate and genuine smile from locals every single time. Curaçao is what happens when centuries of history, genuine cultural depth, extraordinary natural beauty, and a population that genuinely loves where they live all end up on the same island. It is not trying to be the biggest or the most famous Caribbean destination. It is simply being itself, and itself turns out to be one of the most compelling islands in the entire region.
Whether you come for the Handelscade at sunset, the diving at Mushroom Forest, the quechillena at a local warung, or simply to wander a city that feels like nowhere else on Earth, Curaçao will give you more than you expected. When you are ready to plan your trip, search flights and hotels at PalapaVibez.com. The link is in the description. We will help you find the best deal and get you there. If this video helped you, like, subscribe, and follow for more travel guides every week. And drop a comment below. Had you heard of Curaçao before this video, and does it belong on your travel list now?
We read every single comment, and we genuinely want to know.